Thank you. It was really nice. You did a great job. Thank you.
Disconnected. To connect to Jabras, engage 10. Go to the Bluetooth menu on your mobile device and select it from the list. Connected.
I'm not sure that speaker is going to work for us today. It's been shorting out, but the audio is picking up on the Zoom. So
Okay.
whenever you're ready.
Well, I will go ahead and make a motion to open our meeting tonight.
Second?
Member Shannon,
Aye.
Member Loda,
Aye.
Chair Cook,
Aye.
motion passes.
Okay, well, I think this will be a relatively short meeting. We have a couple, I guess, revisions to the agenda. The applicant for the two applications that we have on the agenda tonight has decided to, I guess not withdraw the application, but defer the application until our next meeting. Just by way of information for the public, there was a discrepancy in some of the announcements. Some of the announcements that announced, or the notices that we are legally required to put out, had correctly noticed this date. But I guess one of the notices had mistakenly listed our July meeting as the date for the public hearing. So, we conferred with the applicant, they decided to defer the application for that night, for that. So if anybody is here tonight for that, just be aware that that's been deferred for our July meeting.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
But let the record reflect that there was no one in the audience except
Yeah.
for the trustee liaison.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have anybody online.
No
Okay.
participants online either.
All right, so I guess that's more for the information to anybody who watches it later then. So I guess before we go any further, as I say, we would, the first item would be disclosure of any conflicts of interest, but I don't know that that's even necessary if we don't have anything on the agenda, but items for, resolutions and meeting minutes. I suppose it doesn't hurt, so we should probably just do it, keep the hat, right? So I will go first. I don't have any conflicts of interest to disclose.
I do not.
I don't either.
Okay. Before we move on to the resolutions and meeting minutes, I did want to just put forth a resolution. I would move that we give Justin Bleastra a vote of thanks for his many years of long service as chair, and just recognition of that. So I would move that we so resolve.
Second.
Yeah. Third. Yeah.
Member Shannon,
Aye.
Member Loda,
Aye.
Member Cook, or
Aye.
Chair Cook. Thank you. Motion passes.
So what will that look like?
You can connect with the mayor and ask if you and her can write something together.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sounds good. Yeah, and then I guess we'll just approve it as one of our resolutions.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know,
Just curious about what the follow through was.
Okay.
All right, so with that said, all we have on the agenda left for tonight is we've got some resolutions and some meeting minutes, and then board training is also on the agenda. So let's start with the resolutions. Looks like we've got 2025-2, 2025-1, and then, oh, is this just another copy of the 2025-2? Okay, I got two copies.
Did you get your minutes?
I do have the minutes as well from April 2nd.
Right.
So it's just the two resolutions out there?
2 resolutions, 1 set of minutes.
Okay,
Was that a special meeting or was that? Wasn't that a regularly scheduled meeting a month late? There's a difference, right, between a special meeting and a meeting that just takes a regularly scheduled meeting and one that.
They usually are described differently.
Yeah.
But the rules are the same.
yeah,
Right, so a special meeting would be not on the first Wednesday.
Right.
If we choose another date other than a regular, would be a special, right?
Right. Unless it's delayed because of a legal holiday.
right.
So we're on the minutes then?
The minutes should be regular meeting.
Yeah.
At the top
I
title.
mean, yeah, I was gonna do resolutions first, but let's do the meeting minutes first, since, we're on it, on the phone with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it makes sense to just delete the special in the title there.
Okay.
And I guess we would replace that with regular.
That's not what you usually do?
I think it is, right? You
Yes.
say regular meeting?
Yes.
Alright. Any other revisions on the meeting minutes from the second?
So under 25 Rand Place, it says on the second line, it says coverage exceeding the 45% limit. I think it's 25. Limit.
25 Grand Street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think what that was getting at was,
That's where they were.
yeah, they were at
Bumping up.
45% in the original
But this,
application.
that's not.
But you're right, that says the 45% limit,
Limit.
you're right.
In the zoning, right?
So should we say it's current 45 or should we are moving it to the zoning limit percentage?
We may not even need to put a percentage, just say exceeding the permitted lot coverage.
Okay.
Or actually, maybe should we avoid using permitted? In case that would make it sound like there's a permit at the bottom.
Yeah, exceeding the lot coverage limitation.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. Well, actually, due to exceeding the lot coverage limitation.
Yeah, you're right. Due to lot coverage exceeding,
Triggering a variance due to exceeding the lot coverage limitation.
yeah,
In the zoning district?
I don't think we need to say that.
I agree. Lot coverage limitation. Okay, I like that. That works. Okay.
So Alex, Sandy, I don't know where you were for the 20th South Street, but that is all wrong, I think. That was the garage and the addition on the house. Right? And we talked about it and
I don't remember a business component.
no, there's no, that's, something's
Oh,
not
you're
right.
right, I
And there's
think-
no motion because we had them come back. Because they had an extra, they had to have a variance for height and setback
Yeah, right.
and drainage. They had to come back with new drainage. Drawings.
Right, so there was no discussion of findings.
No, it was a presentation and we told them if they needed more.
I thought that we opened the public hearing at least though, so I think
Oh,
that the
maybe.
motion was wrong
Maybe.
and then they came
Yes,
back.
yes, yeah, because Cause then they came back in May.
Right, right.
But there wasn't any approval of. the
No.
No,
No,
Right,
that's,
yeah.
so that motion is not.
yeah, the
So
motion's
the-
incorrect.
The public hearing.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah. Motion to.
I had to go back and watch it. 'cause-
Yeah, you're like,
Glad
I like you said that, you're like, where were you? I was here. You're a good question. That was a good question.
She was in bed. She was in Korea.
Glad you got that chin.
Got the public hearing open.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. So, and so then there must have been another motion to keep the public hearing open before you adjourn.
leave it. It must have- Knowing Justin,
If possible, can I revise these and bring them back to the next meeting?
Yes.
I think that it will save on some back and forth.
Yeah, that's a good.
Okay. Thank you.
Make sure we do it.
resolutions look great.
Yeah. Any revisions on these resolutions? I looked them over and these, it jumped out at me as needing to be.
Are we starting with 2025-1?
Sure, let's start with. The,
Um. So on the, second page. If we now therefore it is resolved. Is there something missing after? Could you just read that last bullet point? A building permit was,
no laws, a building permit must be obtained within 1 year of this approval.
Mm. You mean about what?
board
the,
member,
the amending the,
how does that?
Oh, I see, that last, yeah, board member.
That's already incorporated above though.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
I think we can take that
I
out.
think we just delete it.
That would be in the, I think that would be in the minutes rather than.
So the amendment doesn't go towards the vote because it is different from who voted it on page 1 versus who voted on the amendment about the no walls being attached as a condition. So the first motion to approve its adoption, it was a member of Lee Strand, member Wilkes, and then when we got to the conditions, there was an amendment between Lee Strand Cook about the carport.
Yeah, if you're gonna do it that way, then it has to be now therefore it is resolved that the area variance is granted subject to the following conditions and then the building permit must be maintained. And then board member Felicia made a motion to amend the resolution to include the condition of no walls. And that was seconded, and then there would be another now therefore it is resolved.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay.
I think it's a little cleaner to maybe include that in the minutes as opposed to the resolution.
I agree.
Open to, you know,
I agree, I don't think that. I'm fine with just striking the last sentence.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's. The other thing is that, and maybe this makes more sense to everybody else, is the first whereas paragraph, A. The variance will not create an undesirable change to the neighborhood character or detriment to nearby properties as the structure is open-sided, aligned with the home and screened by existing vegetation. I wasn't sure that aligned is really the word that you were thinking of. There, you know, does that mean like consistent with the home or like at the same?
Contiguous.
contiguous?
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I think that makes sense, contiguous with the.
okay.
should we say that anything about the neighbors or having no problem with it, or does that not go in?
Yeah, and that's in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's.
We've kind of gone back and forth about the narrative of the minutes and
Yes.
storytelling of the minutes versus
Yeah.
what wants to be captured in the resolutions. So if that seems more appropriate in a resolution versus the minutes, because the minutes are just what it was, I guess, in the, I've gotten, I guess, different meetings haven't clarified that yet for me then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where are we expanding versus where are we keeping it brief?
Right.
Well, this is more of a permanent or searched document, the resolution, as opposed to the minutes.
Yeah, I feel like the resolution is the legally effective document. So it just needs to be very clear as to, what the findings were and what is being granted. But in terms of, the procedural things about, who made the motion and, whether the motion was amended, or I feel like that is the type of thing that would go better in minutes.
So the minutes is more just transactional.
I think that's right. The minutes is more procedural.
Right. Right, and then.
At least that's how I envision
Right,
it.
and so the resolution would include findings.
I don't know that we need to be very detailed as to what those findings are, as far as the reasons for the findings. I think the reasons for the findings can be in the minutes. But what the findings are, I think, should probably be in the resolution. What? Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I think that my overriding concern has always been that if we're gonna take an action that may set a questionable precedent, it's important to put sufficient facts
Right.
in the resolution
I
to make it clear that the facts were important to your final determination, and that any future application that didn't have those facts would be considered dictate.
Right.
So if you think that because you're doing, it's a substantial setback here from 10 feet to 1 foot.
Right.
Yeah.
And, Joanne has a good point that there wasn't any opposition to it. If you wanted to mention that here, I think it would go under A. As the variance will not create an undesirable change to the neighborhood character or detriment to nearby properties. For these factual reasons, moreover, nobody opposed it. But the presence or absence of community opposition by itself really is not legally significant.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's part of our analysis, but it's not,
Right.
yeah.
But if we're paring down the minutes, it's not gonna be in the minutes either, is it?
Written minutes, but recordings count as minutes as well.
True. That's true, yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, it should probably be somewhere. Whether we memorialize it in the resolution or whether we memorialize it in the
Well,
minutes.
I like what Mindy said, is just say there was no opposition from the community or the neighborhood or.
Yeah.
or just no opposition.
Yeah, I think it makes sense maybe to add that then.
Okay.
Under A, just, at the end of that, say, in addition. There was no opposition from neighboring property or anyone else.
When we go through our checklist, is there a way to incorporate that, to reference that? As part of the minutes, because that's the clearest. And I think to your point, making these findings, specific to this property and to that application. If there was a way to incorporate by reference or somehow.
No, I agree. I think that our analysis should be memorialized in some way.
Yeah,
Whether it's in the minutes or in the resolution, I think is probably less important than that it gets memorialized.
Right, but then we bump up against the issue that Alexandra was mentioning, which
Right.
is you know, at one point, we had minutes that were so detailed, they were practically a transcript.
Mm,
You know, you know, the board's feeling was that everything that was discussed would be memorialized.
And then we have the,
And then we kind of swung to the other way where it's
Right.
like just the findings. And, you know, I think they were struggling finding a middle ground.
the right balance,
And,
yeah.
you know, personally, I like the shorter minutes because it gets the job done.
Yeah,
I think that the more that you put into the minutes, the more, you risk diluting the decision
true.
and making it easier to challenge or making it easier to cite in a way that the board had intended. So for example, there may
Yeah.
be situations in the future where the board decides to deny a 1 foot setback variance, because in the board's determination, the applicant, you know, this will cause
Right.
an undesirable change to the neighborhood, but if nobody, you know, let's say nobody opposes it, you know, the neighbors don't care, that doesn't mean that you have to grant the application.
Right.
So, in my opinion, I would leave it out
okay,
because it's a non-event.
Yeah.
If you were gonna put it in, that's where I think it would go,
Mhm.
but personally, I don't think that it really belongs in the resolution under this board's current philosophy about what's gonna be in the resolution.
in the minutes, there's a place for public, where we open the public meeting, and maybe it could go.
Just know there was no opposition, right?
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But to call it out as a, you know,
Mhm, mhm.
as a factor that was significant enough to put in the resolution.
That's true, because in presence or absence of opposition is not a factor. That's part of it, it's
not.
a fact that may influence our analysis. But
Well-
it's not itself a factor, yeah.
It is not a factor, and you know, as you know, there's a ton of case law that says that generalized community opposition is not the basis. You
Right.
cannot deny an application on that
Just
basis.
because, yeah,
So, does that mean that? We've probably talked this.
Yeah,
but you see where I'm coming from.
it's more the substance of the opposition that is relevant than the presence or absence.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
that makes sense. Okay, so I guess in that case, I would say it makes sense to probably leave it at, and maybe just put into the minutes that, you know, we open the public hearing and it'll be gone.
Right.
If it wasn't already, because the public hearing already closed the previous meeting for this
Sure.
application, so
Yeah.
it could have already been there and we're just
Right.
reaching back a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
But I'll look, I'll double check.
Anybody have any other comments, or revisions on 2025-1?
No.
Okay. In that case, I will go ahead and move to approve, the form of the resolution 2025-1 with the revisions discussed.
Member Shannon?
Aye.
Member Loda?
Aye.
Chair Cook?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And then 2025-2, this is one with, the swimming pool.
Right.
Anybody have any revisions or thoughts on this? I didn't have any either, so, hearing no comments, I will go ahead and move to approve the form of the resolution 2025-2 as prepared.
Second,
Member Loda?
Aye.
Member Shannon?
aye,
Chair Cook?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Before you post it, the hearing, the meeting, Alexandra, would you please read back the first motion?
Motion to approve the resolution with revisions.
Yes, okay.
The only other item on the agenda for tonight is board training.
Please get your training done. Our training year ends in September. And for each board, it's required 4 hours for zoning board and planning board. So if you want a reminder of training opportunities that are self-certification, which means you just watch the video and you turn in a form to me. And I do try to forward in-person trainings as well as they present. Yes, because it is a requirement and it's being constantly reviewed with the code. So please keep it up. And if you need some support, don't hesitate to reach out to me. That's it.
Excellent reminder, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anybody have any other items to bring forward before we adjourn?
Can we just ask if there's
Oh,
an update?
let's do, yeah.
I would just like a selfie for you to.
Okay, no problem.
Actually, I was asking our
For-
liaison.
Yeah, Jenna.
If there's something from the
Trustee.
trustee world.
Nothing yet, I was told by the mayor that we've got, I think, 2 resumes to look at Tuesday night for the board. I haven't seen them yet, so.
Mhm.
I know she wants to take action on that, that's all I've got, so.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sounds good. We look forward to a full compliment.
And then we'll adjourn.
Sounds
Is there
good.
something else?
I'll go ahead and make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Member Loda,
I
Member Shannon, Chair Cook.
Aye.
Motion passes. Are you guys ready for your selfie?
Yep.